Hey guys, hope everything's going well. Alrighty, before I start this video, once again, if you like this, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't, share it on social media. Okay, so 90 million people got their stimulus checks. A lot of men are probably going to blow it on sports cards if they don't need it to pay their rent, to pay their car bills or whatever. If they have a job, not too much in debt, they're going to blow it on cards. And this is a good opportunity from a flipping perspective to buy football cards. You know, football cards right now have taken an off-season hit as usual, and everyone's focused on basketball. A lot of people are focused on soccer, you know, on baseball, and this is the time to look at football cards, in my opinion. And I have been buying some football cards lately. Not aggressively as I was a few years ago when the market was relatively cheap. A lot of things are still expensive in my eyes. But I look at specifically quarterbacks because that's where the hot money usually goes. And I look at quarterbacks with high Wonderlic scores, meaning they take this test of Wonderlic score, and the higher the Wonderlic score, the higher IQ you have. In my opinion, you need to have an above average IQ to be successful in the NFL, specifically the playoffs. Because the schemes are complicated, you need to have good second and third reads on the defense. But once again, you know, as I argue with my brother, just because you have a high Wonderlic score doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a good quarterback. I need to reiterate that all the time, and we get into arguments, passionate arguments about that topic. And I'm looking at quarterbacks that no one else is looking at. Here's one. His name is Jordan Love. I've talked about this in my other video. This is a patch auto contenders, a rookie ticket card. So it's not the most valuable card out there from the contender side. But it is still an auto card. And, you know, I think a Mahomes PSA 10 went for 60 grand the other day. Granted, it's Patrick Mahomes. Granted, the market is a bit overinflated, but still, I'm not saying Jordan Love is going to be the next Patrick Mahomes. But, you know, a few things about Jordan Love. He has, number one, a decent Wonderlic score, I believe, of 27. He is backing up Aaron Rodgers. You know, who is a great quarterback, 3-time MVP winner, future Hall of Famer. So he's going to sit behind him. He's going to learn behind that guy. So I think that's a good thing. And the Packers tend to draft good quarterbacks. Me as a Bears fan, you know, I used to always joke that Brett Favre ruined my childhood. He ruined my Sunday afternoons growing up. When they played the Bears, they always got beaten, or most of the time. But yeah, and Jordan Love, the only thing that I have a criticism about is his senior year at, I think, Utah State or whatever college he went to. He had a bunch of picks. I think it's 21 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. So if he cuts down on the interceptions whenever he gets to the NFL as a starter, whether it's, you know, this year because Aaron Rodgers gets injured or whether it's, you know, in a few years, I think that's something to look at. The other card that I'm looking at, and this is, you know, really out of the box, is Jake Fromm. Most of you people have not heard of him. This guy is on the Buffalo Bills roster. He was, I believe, a 5th-round draft pick from University of Georgia last year. And the thing was that he beat out Justin Fields. And Justin Fields then transferred to Ohio State. And Justin Fields is going to be top of the line in terms of quarterbacks out there this year. Not number one. That's going to be Trevor Lawrence. And, you know, if Jake Fromm had stayed his final year at Georgia, he probably would have been, you know, a 1st or 2nd round pick if he had played, you know, really well. And, you know, Josh Allen obviously is a quarterback, but who knows? If Josh Allen gets injured, this guy may come up, or he could be traded. So, you know, this is a very speculative pick, but, you know, it's $38 for an auto rookie ticket, and I'm like, why not? We've seen Drew Bledsoe get injured back in the day, and then Tom Brady came off the bench, and the rest is history. Not saying he's Tom Brady though. Other cards that I'm looking at, from Star Stock, I did buy a Josh Allen card, a 2018, and I took some profits off of Fernando Tatis Jr. and I just rolled it into Josh Allen. I couldn't find any good Herbert cards or any liquid Herbert cards, so I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna put in Josh Allen and probably flip it before the year starts for football. So August, September. Yeah, I'm not aggressively flipping the Star Stock stuff. But what else am I looking at, or that I believe the cards will go up? So the other day, New England just signed a bunch of free agents, and this year New England has more money than they did in the past. And I'm just thinking, okay, Cam Newton just re-signed with the Patriots, and it just appears that Bill Belichick's ego may have gotten hurt last year because Tom Brady won the Super Bowl. That's year one. Tom Brady at the age of 43. So Belichick has a lot to prove. He wants to show that he still is a good coach. And if you give Cam Newton weapons, despite some of the flaws of Cam Newton, and despite him being injury prone, I believe that someone buying Cam Newton from a speculative play, that may be actually a good risk reward in my opinion. I'm not going to do it once again, but I'll give you an example of baseball. So I was buying all these Verlander cards before the 2019 season. I didn't expect him to have a crazy year, and because he had overperformed, his card just doubled within that year. And this was before the bubble started. The bubble, in my opinion, for sports cards started last year in March. That's when cards started to go crazy. So Verlander's cards, once he pitched a no-hitter, his cards basically doubled. And he won the Cy Young. Later that year in the in the World Series, it tripled, and it then went down in the offseason. But what am I trying to say is that you have cards that will slowly get a bid up, but if the quarterback overperforms compared to what the market thinks, the card will go higher, in my opinion. So Cam Newton is on my list for that. I'm also looking at Mitch Trubisky of the Bears. I'm a Bears fan. He didn't do as well. Obviously, he has problems with second and third reads of the defenses, but he's still an athletic guy. I wouldn't give up too much on him because the Bears didn't have too many weapons on the offensive side. You give Trubisky weapons like Mahomes has, Trubisky would be a much better quarterback. Obviously, he'd still throw interceptions. That's his weakness. But, if you can find a good, optic hollow PSA 9 or 10 for an adequate price, that could be a decent flip. And I'm not sure where he's going to go. There are some reports he may be interested in New England. That's what I thought. I think he'd be a good fit there. And I thought that New Orleans would actually be a good fit, but now they have two quarterbacks, Taysom Hill and Winston. And and speaking of New Orleans, Taysom Hill and Winston seem interesting. New Orleans still has a strong offense, and they have a great coach. Despite losing some free agents, New Orleans should be a top contender once again this year. And last year they had problems. One of the reasons why they didn't beat the Buccaneers in the playoffs was Taysom Hill was injured with a knee problem. That's the other thing people didn't talk about. So, I have one of his cards right now. I am selling, a playoff contender card. It's auto. But, those who believe that Taysom Hill is going to be a decent quarterback, at least for this year, and maybe 2 to 3 more years, and could take the Saints far in the playoffs with the help of Winston, that could be a good aggressive play. And once again, I'm selling the card. I'm just trying to raise cash, because I'm still uncertain about Taysom Hill. It's like a flip of the coin, but I could see the other side of it, where Taysom Hill could be playing really, really well this year. And it's not that he's going to take all the snaps. Winston's going to help out, so that could help his cause. And if you want to look at other players right now, who would I look at? Well, there are players like Rodgers. There's Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's going to be staying with Seattle. Brady. There's Mahomes, and you could make all of those plays this year. You could buy all of these guys who are most likely going to go deep in the playoffs, and then you could start flipping them around playoff time. That's one strategy. It tends to work with Hall of Fame quarterbacks that have good teams. But I'm looking at now the top 2 quarterbacks, which are Mahomes and Brady. And what I liked about these 2 players, Mahomes and Brady, is that they're selfless. They were willing to restructure their contract to help their team. How many quarterbacks did that? I don't know of any, high caliber quarterback that has done that. I mean, Drew Brees did restructure his contract, but he'd retired. So, when I see guys like that, they want to help their team out. That could be a potentially good investment, for a flip. Not for an investment, but just for an aggressive flip. You see that Mahomes is going to get help on the offensive side, and yeah, he had problems last year because there were injuries in the Super Bowl, or it was actually earlier this year. So I'm thinking that Mahomes' stock could even go higher, which sounds crazy, but that's one thing going in my head. And then Tom Brady, just when you think that his cards can't go up, he restructured his contract. They got Gronk again. Barrett signed a long-term deal with Tampa. So it's not all about the fancy pants and lollipops for Tom Brady and Mahomes. It's about winning, and just potentially for an aggressive bet, you could put money in there, and most likely they're probably going to go deep in the playoffs. And the rate of return, in my opinion, even though the cards are pricey right now, could still make a buck on it. I made a bunch of purchases, as a disclosure, of Mahomes and Brady in like 2019 and early 2020. And for my risk appetite, since I have cards that went from, for Brady, for instance, from $200 or $225 to about at least $1,400, $1,500, a PSA 8, I don't feel comfortable buying more Brady's at this point. There are other cards such as, the 403, the Pacific for Brady, where the pop size as of right now is low, but I don't know how much supplies at PSA. But once again, this is Tom Brady. Even though it's not his highly coveted rookie card, at the same time, right now people could probably buy their PSA 7s, PSA 8s relatively cheap, and the stimulus money's coming in. You could drive the prices higher right before the season starts. So things like that I'm looking into. And Mahomes cards, I bought a bunch of Leaf 2017 cards like last year. I think I must have bought 50 to 75 at least, ungraded obviously. I sent a bunch to PSA, which will take a year now to grade. But yeah, so that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking mainly at quarterbacks. I did realize that from a non-quarterback situation, tight end Gronkowski's cards have gone crazy. I have the C1112 Chrome PSA 10. That card, last year you could have bought at what, 150, 60 bucks, 160 bucks. And in one auction, I don't know if there's any shield bidding on eBay, but it sold for 2,400. It was gradually going higher. After the Super Bowl, it went to like 600, 700 bucks. And that made me think, okay, if hot money is going to Gronkowski, less money is most likely going into Kelsey of the Chiefs. So this could be an opportunity, in my opinion. Sell Gronk, go into Kelsey. I'm not going to sell Gronk. My wife and I had a conversation about this the other day. I said, I want to maybe sell Gronk. It went from 150 to maybe 2,400 if that auction is accurate. She says, no, you should keep it. It's Gronk. She's a huge Patriots fan and a huge Gronk fan. We cheered for them in the Super Bowl this year, even though I like Mahomes as well. But yeah. And the other thing about Gronk is that Gronk is going to do things after the NFL, maybe in WWE. So there's a cultural relevance to him. And speaking of cultural relevance, Drew Brees is going to be working for NBC this year and years to come. He's going to be doing Notre Dame football. He's going to be doing coverage for, the NFL. He's going to be doing Olympic coverage. And, Drew Brees is a likable guy. And some of his cards, some of his scarce cards. I have one of them. It's a PSA 9 2000 or 2001 Chrome refractor. And there was a one black refractor. It just sold on PWCC for 34 grand. It was a PSA 10. So, yeah, that's what I'm looking at. I believe Brees cards will go higher despite him retiring. Some of his scarce cards are probably going to go crazy because he's still in the spotlight. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think. What are you doing for football? I'd like to see, what you guys are doing because, everyone thinks differently. They may have some good ideas. Yeah, hit the like button, subscribe, and I'm looking forward to seeing your comments. Thanks. Bye.